Croeso, hello, welcome to the latest episode of Rob Ryan Red, the Wrexham podcast, brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. On today's podcast, we'll look back at Wrexham's FA Cup exit. We'll answer some of your emails. We'll talk about a controversial change that could be proposed in the future. And we'll look ahead to this weekend's clash with Mansfield Town. All that and more on today's show.
Rob Ryan Red.
So, Nath, only one place to start, sadly. We criticised Wrexham when they didn't come out and condemn the scrapping of FA Cup replays. Good to see that we boycotted the FA Cup in a different way. We're out of it already. 1-0 defeat away at Harrogate Town. I know hindsight's a very useful tool in football. It did feel a bit of an underwhelming tie and a banana skin when it came out of the hat. And as you put on socials, no excuses in the end.
Yeah, got exactly what we deserved, which was positively nothing. We could have kept playing, I think, for another 90. We wouldn't have scored. Just one of them days, and probably the most deflated I've been for a performance this season. I think Stevenage was bad, but Stevenage, they might still do. They had at the time the best defence in League One. Birmingham, I wasn't angry, upset. I was, if anything, blown away by the level that we want to get to, and they're going to win the league, so that's absolutely fine. This one was really disappointing because it was starters out there. It was, okay, we said, didn't we, how many changes would they make? Put Owen O'Connell in. No real complaints to that. I know some people after, with the benefit of hindsight, said, oh, put Dan Scarr in, we probably don't concede from a set piece. I wasn't angry at Owen O'Connell playing. I wasn't angry at Seb Revan playing. Really let himself down, I thought, on the day, loses his man for the corner. Okay, there was a lot of players that underperformed, but he didn't really, stake his claim to play at the weekend against Mansfield. I thought James McLean was at least bright when he came on. And I don't even know what the other change was now. Rathbone into midfield. Oh, Cannon came in back into the midfield, and Lee dropped out. Just a really, one of those games where you dominate, and if anything, the formula to beat Wrexham is give Wrexham the ball. Harrogate gave us the ball, and we got parkied. They parkied us.
That's what worries me. Like you said, I've got no complaints when you lose, like we did at Birmingham, when you lose to a far better team. But the running theme, I suppose, for Wrexham is we have got what is now a clear identity of a team who work really well off the ball and we're very good out of possession. But when the onus is on us to break teams down, we really do struggle away from home. And it's been that running theme. And it means that you look at some of the games coming up now, which you would usually have down as bankers and the games you expect Wrexham to win. I expect us to beat basically everyone at home. But away from home, that tactic really just isn't working at the moment, isn't it? And you mentioned there the changes. I think everyone was happy when the lineup dropped because we've been saying for weeks it'd be good to see an away performance of Elliot Lee. It'd be good to see Revan, Rathbone. Surely he can do it in the game from the start. And it just feels like lots of people wasted their opportunity. And I agree with you that the exit does hurt a lot more than usual because in the league there's obviously another chance to go again and you're playing very quickly to put things right. But that's it. The FA Cup's done. Our journey's over for another year. We're out of the Carabao Cup as well. Yes, we've got the Bristol Street Motors, which might become more of a priority now, quite interestingly enough, because that is an actual chance to get to Wembley. And if we do treat that competition with respect, we could be dreaming of a trip to Wembley still this season. I'd be interested to see how that does develop in the weeks ahead. But it just feels deflating, doesn't it? Because I didn't even realise the draw was on Sunday night, and it was as I was leaving Old Trafford. I mean, the funny thing for me is I was at the United match on Sunday, so I was watching the game on a stream in the press box with Mickey Thomas for the first half an hour, and he predicted a 4-0 win before kick-off. He was saying how he's certain we're going to go up this season. We've had a great catch-up on all things Wrexham. Mickey even said, and this isn't a promise, but I think I've almost got an agreement where Mickey might come into the tech end and watch a game soon. He said he really fancies that. I showed him where my seat is. He's like, oh, I fancy a bit of that. If you can sort it out, then keep your eyes peeled. You might see Mickey Thomas in the tech end soon. That's what I'm working on. But there was all this positivity. I thought we'd win. I think everyone thought we'd win to a degree, in the sense that old Wrexham lose that game, new Wrexham maybe don't. But yeah, that's the cup done, and all our dreams of a Premier League tie vanish for another year.
Yeah, look, and the default for a lot of people, I saw it all over social media, is, oh well, this is a blessing in disguise. We can focus on the league. But what you don't realise is you can quickly be, and not to be too pessimistic, just I'm using it to back up my point that I love the FA Cup. You could be 10th in no time in League One, and suddenly the season's dwindled, and you get to that January, that third round weekend, and who knows? If we'd have got through, would it still have been? It's the butterfly effect. Would we still have got Gainsborough Trinity at home? Maybe, you never know.
Well, did we lose to Gainsborough Trinity last time we played them at home, didn't we?
Yeah, well, revenge. So, but then if Harrogate end up getting, a trip to Arsenal or Tottenham or something, are we going to be ruining? But look, on the day, you have to say that Jack Muldoon, who's always been a bit of a thorn in our side, took his chance well from a corner. It's a very good header, really technically sound header. That poor defending, but it's a good header. And we had chances. Rich, Mullin, Palmer, Rathbone. Again, I really wasn't impressed by Revan, as I said. And Bodvarsson comes on. He looks bright, and he has that chance, and he lashes it straight at the keeper on the volley. And Mo Farrell again was offside when he scored. We've said it. I think we said it after the Stevenage game. You're gonna have those days, and there'll be more of those days. We said that there'll be more of those days. It doesn't mean they sting any less when you get them. Particularly in the cup, when you've got no way to, that is it. It's a one and done. You are out.
Yeah, and when we lose in the league, it often fires us up, doesn't it, to come out fighting the next game. But in the cup, well, that's it. And it's really difficult sometimes to gauge your own opinion on this, because one element of me wants to be happy clappy and say we're still very good, we're really high up in the league, it doesn't matter too much. But then the context of it is still very disappointing. And I know we're in a very privileged position now, where going out in the FA Cup first round is a negative. A few years ago we could only have dreamt of that, really, to be in League One and have that as a woe is me moment. But you've got to judge Wrexham on where they are right now, and it's a real disappointing. It's not even a cup run, is it? We've fallen flat on our face. We didn't get out of the block. So
at the first hurdle,
yeah. Interestingly enough, Nath, looking forward is, again, you can't read too much into it straight away, but Reading got Harborough in the next round 2. If Reading, and they'll be heavy favourites for that game at home at the Madejski, if they win that game, then our trip to Reading will get postponed in early January. That's just a note of sort of planning for Wrexham fans if you already booked Reading away. I know it was the same last season when MK Dons away was a big trip. Steve, who is my mum's friend, had booked the weekend away, convinced his wife to go to Milton Keynes for the weekend. I think she was very glad that we got to the FA Cup third round instead. So yeah, planning ahead, watch out for Reading away. That could easily be postponed, moved to a Tuesday night. Also,
pin that up in the Harbour Town dressing room. Someone clip it up. The analyst, the Harbour Town analyst, clip it up.
The other element as well is we've now got a free weekend on the 30th of November, as it stands, because there's no game to rearrange there, is there, at the moment in time? Lincoln obviously beat Chesham on Monday night, so that would have potentially been a fixture. It's already been scheduled, but there's that fixture gap.
Rich, the way I look at it is, Parky said it himself. I'm going to use the words of the great Phil Parkinson, who said it is a reality check for us, because ultimately this wasn't a lineup that we're familiar with in the Bristol Street Motors. This wasn't. He didn't go there and go, right, let's put in Liam Hall in goal. Let's put in Josh Adam as our number 10. Let's put Farl and Bodvarsson up front. Let's put Harry Ashfield in midfield. Let's put Harry. He didn't chuck it. If anything, Parky went with Dobson, went with Max, went with O'Connor, went with Barney, who I thought Barney was probably, again, our brightest one. I mean,
and the other thing as well, Nath, is if we do make wholesale changes and go out, all the criticism is why haven't you respected the cup? Why haven't you played your strongest team? So it's credit to Harrogate for doing a job on us. Like, fair play to them. They deserve to be in round 2. We don't. So congratulations to them. Predominantly, definitely, Rich. But I just was going to say about for those players, it's
just an acute reminder, because again, look, we don't have a midweek game, so we're recording this on bonfire night as fireworks go off outside. Nothing to celebrate in the week for Wrexham, unfortunately. But it is just a reality check, a reminder that yes, you're very good, you're performing very good, you are on track to finish in the playoffs. I still think second is in play for Wrexham. Let's not be too pessimistic. We've been very good so far. We're going to come up against a very good Mansfield team at the weekend. We're at home. We'll be favourites. If you win that, Harrogate's quickly forgotten, isn't it, really? In the Carabao Cup, I mean, not many people are talking about Sheffield United. I know they're from a league above, but no one's really remembering that game. That's faded into insignificance. And the FA Cup will fall into a similar bracket. But also, I hope that those players came off. And yeah, there's some whispers about mitigating circumstances of Lewis Brunt was ill, and I don't know if anyone else was sort of under the weather or anything.
We had to fly economy to get there. Yeah,
but ultimately, our starters went out and were beaten quite impressively by a League Two team. It doesn't matter if you made 40 crosses or had lots of shots or dominated the ball. You got beat, and you need to look at the mirror and go, right, we can't allow that to happen against better teams in League One very often if we want to get to where we want to get to.
Yeah, and again, if we end this section on that, it is that, as we hinted to earlier, sometimes that's what we need is, like you said, that little reality check, that little sort of just uncomfortable feeling, really. I know it's cliche that you've got to harness that disappointment, really, and you learn more from a team when you lose than you do when you win a match. So
definitely,
the challenge is there. Mansfield Town at home this weekend, early kick-off. The players should be raring to go to put things right.
Right, then let's do a few emails, Rich, because we always say we're going to read them out. And there's a few different ones, some good ones, a bit about formation. One's a charity event that we want to plug, and one's also just telling us off. So that's always good. I mean, we could get told off for loads of things, couldn't we? So
Keep them
I
coming.
will start with that one. I mean, this one is entitled Pronunciation Cringe. So before I even opened it, I kind of knew what this was going to get at. But Ryan sent us this message. It says, "Hi, guys. As someone who has pulled on the shirt for the Blue Vikings, but okay, the third team, but still, while a student at the Technical University of Denmark, please stop saying Lyngby. You're much better off going with Lungbu." Okay, so remember we were talking about European exploits and whatnot. Apologising to all our listeners in Denmark, Copenhagen and beyond. Anyway, let's get us back on track.
Speaking of that, though, Nate, we're recording this on the Tuesday night, which is 38 years since we drew 2-2 with Real Zaragoza in the European Cup.
I love seeing that. Is that on the Wrexham Lowdown account? Because whoever runs that account, love it.
Superb.
It's,
yeah.
Always just that shot of sort of nostalgia. The most powerful drug out there.
I just love seeing the Kairos on European night with that sort of grainy archive footage. There's something about it. Obviously, the kits, the colours, the sponsors on the sides, just everything about it is just so atmospheric. But yeah, what we call them, Lungbu?
Lungbu, yeah. There you go. So that's from Ryan. We've got another one that's just from Philly Wrexham, which says, "Hey fellas, I know Parky gets a lot of criticism for the style of play Wrexham play currently, despite the successes." Which is probably apt this week after we just slagged his slagged the performance against Harrogate. Like many, I'm in the "in Parky we trust" camp. However, do you guys think the style Wrexham play right now could deter transfer targets from wanting to come and play under Phil? Winning is winning to me, and I don't care. But do you think some players would care about the out of possession style if we were to go up the leagues? What do you think, Rich? Do you think players care much about the style, or do you think they just want the notoriety and the pay packet?
No, players care about winning, and if they're winning, they don't care too much. I think if a player was to not sign for us, they could maybe try and earn brownie points for a new club by saying, "Yeah, I didn't want to go there. Style play doesn't suit me." That sort of crap. But the reality is, Phil Parkinson would only target a player who fits into a system anyway. So he's not going to be targeting someone who's not really going to be keen to play in that way, because there's a reason why they've been targeted in the first place, and it's effective. It's winning football. If they want to go play tiki taka and be 24th in League One, be my guest. If they want to play effective football, be third, then yeah, come to Wrexham. We are always going to get criticism, and I've personally sort of done a 180 on my opinions on Phil's tactics, because I did at first think they were a bit sort of limited and a bit outdated, but the proof's in the pudding. They are so effective, and now more than ever I can see what we're trying to do. I don't always agree with our style of play, but I really do. I can see what we're trying to do now. I'm not worried when we don't have the ball because I know how well we are defensively and out of possession. We're so good at getting the ball from back to front. We play to our strengths. So I don't think it will deter transfer targets. But as we've said since the very first episode, probably the podcast, and since that first season, I think there will come a time where we have to evolve our tactics because the higher up the leagues we go, you get punished more when you're out of the ball, out of possession. So you can't afford, maybe, if you were to get to the championship, to be this limited and maybe this one-dimensional at times, as we
Which
are.
Ultimately, if we boil it even, if I simplify what you said, and I agree with a lot of what you say there, but if I simplify it even more, there's one currency in professional sports: winning and losing.
Money.
Ultimately, money. But at the crux of professional sport is winning or losing. You either win or you lose. You're a winner or you're a loser. In whichever sport you want to pick, you either win it all or you don't. And that is the nature of the beast every year. That is the mountain you tried to climb every single year. We've climbed it back to back, and we're trying to go back to back to back. And eventually, you know, it's going to get tougher. We might fall off the mountain, whatever the case may be. It's difficult. But ultimately, you win and you lose. Professional sport is a short career for players, and you want to win more than lose. And I was chatting to a rep of a former player who I won't disclose for their own benefit, and they're in a situation now which they don't win a lot, and they said it's miserable. It's not fun being in a situation where you lose all the time, even though the style of play that this individual supposedly playing is very supposedly pleasing on the eye. And Rich, if we could all win like prime Pep Guardiola Barcelona, of course, who wouldn't want that? That's some of the best football people have seen in recent decades. Of course, you would want to win like that. But everybody can't play like Barcelona. And that actually brings me on to Rob's email, Rob Tillman, who sent an email, this actually led me on very nicely, Rich. But so many complain about Parky's persistent 5-3-2. But when George Dobson is in the lineup, how about we call it what it is, which is a 5-1-2-2? That signing of Dobson / shift in formation has been the single most important difference from League Two Wrexham that has allowed us to have this excellent start to the League One campaign. Hypothetically, remove Dobson from this excellent equation that Wrexham was gearing up for League One, and I could see the climate being very grim, with people calling for Parky's head and the summer transfer window being viewed as a complete failure. People may not realise how Dobson has been the keystone in making Wrexham a top League One team. I might push back on Rob there and say I think Dobson has got a lot of flowers. But although Jack was finding his groove and got hurt, he's obviously Dobson's been the main guy. On a separate note, thank you to Jack Marriott. He's worked his ass off for long enough for Mullin to get fit. I think by the end of the season, we will just see just how important Marriott was for us at the very start of the campaign and having a second in the auto spots and the playoff positions. But thanks very much. Keep up the good work on the podcast. You've allowed a man from the Ozark Mountains of Arkansas to follow a great club from halfway across the world from the middle of nowhere. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the email. Yeah, Dobson. I mean, there's nothing more we can say on Dobson, is there, Rich, that hasn't already been said. He was the key piece on a freebie, the ultimate freebie for us.
I mean, here's one for Wrexham inside. He kind of like a N'Golo Kante for us, isn't he? Like, I remember there was that famous.
Why do you want to get clipped up now?
Was it Craig Shakespeare who said it though? I think when Leicester City won the Premier League, he said we play three in midfield. It's N'Golo Kante. It's like N'Golo Kante and N'Golo Kante either side of Danny Drinkwater or something.
Shall I say that George Dobson's like our version of Sergio Busquets and see which one of us gets
get all the names
in.
Rodri, just try get them all in.
Just see which one gets picked by Wrexham inside. Rich, I've got two more, two very quick ones. So we've got one from Ned, and then we got one from Rich, a different Rich, not you. Ned has put, thank you for emailing in. He emailed in a few weeks ago, but didn't get around to it. He put, watch your pod every week. So hi, Ned. Thank you very much. One thing you missed when talking about the Birmingham game is they had 2 weeks to prepare for Wrexham. Yes, they are a great team, but even if you give a bad team with a good manager 2 weeks to prepare for the match, they'll have a chance at doing good. I can't stand fans that want Parky to change his formation. They play too much FIFA and put too much emphasis on it. In American football, we have the same thing. It's called ground and pound. It's putting it in the ground and running it. Seeing if your defense can be the offense or can beat the offense. So Wrexham have been playing the Parky way for 3 years and it has worked. Not everyone, as he said to us, not everyone can be Barcelona. Sorry for the ramble. And also really liked your interview with Luke Young, my favourite episode. Thank you very much, Ned. That is also on YouTube if anyone hasn't. Luke Young having a very good time at Cheltenham this season, which I think we sort of knew he would, didn't we, Rich? But we said if you play regularly in League Two, we sort of knew that he would do well. And lastly, last email, by the way, you can email us in, and I think the next segment's going to get a lot of people emailing in, so stay tuned for that one because we're probably going to put cat amongst the pigeons. But Rich Driffield has put, "Hi gents, I'm a Wrexham AFC season ticket holder, Wrexham Lager Stand paddock Copside, and I've been a supporter since I was a child. I'm a regular listener to the pod, so keep up the good work." Thank you very much, Rich. I'm also CEO of the Joshua Tree, a charity that supports families affected by childhood cancers across Cheshire, North West England and North Wales. We support a number of families across Wrexham, Flintshire, Denbighshire and beyond. In January, I'm taking on the Arctic Frontier Challenge in support of the Joshua Tree. Starting from Rovaniemi, that's definitely going to get another pronunciation cringe email. In Finland, I'll be trekking 40 miles over 3 days, sleeping in a tent, putting my kit on a sledge, all in minus 20 degrees Celsius. This is to raise awareness and funds for families affected by childhood cancers. This is my first ever personal fundraising challenge, so I'm looking to promote this out to hopefully generate interest in the charity and future donations. I'll tell you what, Rich, we will chuck in £50 to get it going. Well, I'm sure there's people who have already donated, but we'll chuck in £50. I'll put the Just Giving link in the YouTube and on Spotify and everything. So if you want to help Rich on his, what's the temperature in the Mould Road stand? Minus 25?
Yeah, I think it
warmer in
sounds
Finland,
like a summer's
probably.
holiday from that. Yeah, it seems like he's no, that's an incredible effort.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
And what I will say is, I know a few people have DM'd us different charitable causes. Let's try and get a few of those promoted in the coming weeks, Rich, because a lot of people are doing a lot of special things. This is one that we're quite happy to support. Rich, a different Rich. You're definitely not going to minus 20 degrees in Finland.
God, no.
It's
one of those, well, because it's that time of year, isn't it, where it's very difficult and budgets are maybe even tighter because it is the festive period and stuff. So even if you can't, if you've got money, amazing, give it to the link if you can. If not, share it. That is another massive way to help. So the link will be in the description. If you've got any spare change, please put some towards it. If you've not, even just tweet the link, put on your Facebook or whatever, that would be amazing, just to share the words for them. And if you've got any more worthy causes and stuff like that, we try and do as many as we can. Obviously, we can't just have a full hour of that, but if you've got anything that you want promoting as well, just drop us a message, robbrownred@gmail.com, or you can get with us, maybe not. robbrownred.com.
You're spoken for.
Contact page.
Leave that for me, mate. Leave that for me.
But Nathan Salt, we'll set up a dating service soon as well. Nathan can it's replacing fantasy football. But yeah.
Before we move on to the next segment, quickly, I want to say all the people that got rid of fantasy football and said they hated it and it was horrible, and I actually listened and backed down. I was number one in our entire league last week, and I didn't say a word. So
really, you can have your moment now if you want.
I was number one overall last week, and I didn't say a single word. So there you go.
We will think of a way to do it. Maybe if it's just at the end of the podcast, though, or something like that. I think just for a segment on fantasy football. But yeah, well done to Nathan Salt, our manager of the week. Fantastic, well done to him. Trust me, if I ever get manager of the week, the whole podcast dedicated to it. So it's still going to go that way.
Ryan Red.
Nath, you mentioned a controversial change. Should we go into the debate or not? I mean, what you sent me a message this week, didn't you, on WhatsApp? I'm not sure why it crossed your mind. Exactly, what was the sort of seed that sown this? Like, why did it come across your imagination?
So basically, there's a lot of different bodies in terms of clubs that have to speak to the league, and they speak to the supporters, the Football Supporters Association, and more, and we're seeing it in the day job. I won't mention that team because everyone gets annoyed when we do. But they consult fans. A lot of clubs now, there's a big emphasis on fan consultation. Do we want a new stadium? That's not what the segment is about. Quickly, not about new stadium, but do they want a new stadium? Do they want new food stands? Do they want a new whatever? They consult the fans, and it's, what do you want for the fan zone? How can we change it? How can we improve that? Fan boards, and there's a lot more of that now. There's got to be an onus to be appearing to do a lot with the fans. And clubs right across the Football League have to submit documents to I think it's to the league and the Football Supporters Association, where they basically lay out what's called a fan engagement plan. And so I was speaking to a few different people, and obviously different clubs put their own ideas. They're going to have, some clubs, as you see on social media, they have a manager fans forum. You can put, and sometimes they go horribly wrong. I think there was one I think it was Barnsley, where it just went horrendously wrong, and the questions were really, really wacky and wild, and they weren't vetted. So you get things like that where you can speak to the manager, speak to the execs. They're seen to be doing things. And basically, when I was thinking about it, one of the things that always comes up in these fan engagement plans and models is, if we want to change the heritage, you want to change any of the heritage at the club, you would speak to fans. And it just got me thinking, Richard. I know in the mission statement that Rob and Ryan said they wouldn't move Wrexham out of the stadium, they wouldn't rebrand and everything, which was a hard promise. But it got me thinking, what would it take for you to be open to the conversation of changing the crest, changing the badge? Because immediately a lot of people are going to say, I don't want to change the crest, I don't want to change the badge. And I'm not saying I do either. I'm just saying, what would it take for you to be open to the conversation to change it? Or do you want to change it?
So it's an interesting point. I think initially when you asked me the question, I was very much of the why change it? It's always been good. Why I'm scared of change. Old man yells at cloud sort of thing. Like, I don't like change. Back in my day, we used to be good when we had this badge. But then I realised the reason I like the Wrexham badge is because it's the Wrexham badge. What it means to me, and it's the badge I've always had on my shirts growing up. It's the badge I wish I could have worn and been a player for myself. The one that when I see a player on the pitch, I want them to give everything for that badge. But then when I actually think about it, it's got the feathers on it, and it's got Ich Dine, I serve. It's the Prince of Wales motto. And I know that you then open a James McLean can of worms because there's lots of connotations either way there. Personally, my personal opinion, I don't stand for those two things. So why should that be on my club's badge? And either way, whether you are in favour of those sort of political and sort of royal sort of sentiment, the whole argument is always football clubs should be apolitical. They shouldn't get involved in these things. So surely it should have no mention of the feathers or no mention of Ich Dine. And that should just be neutral. And that way, I'd say it's not offending anyone. If people love the royal family, it's offended them because it's removed. But I think that there's certainly an argument to modernise it. And even in terms of sort of merchandising going forward, every time a football club releases a new badge, I feel like there is an initial outcry of this is awful, this is wrong, you're killing the club. And then it sort of dies down. And if I look, when I go on sort of Flash Score now, and I look through all the EFL, the Premier League, so many teams now have these sort of circular crests that are very easy to reproduce and put on merchandise. And, if the design was right, I wouldn't personally be against it. I can see why lots of people would, but I think that Rob and Ryan's duty isn't necessarily, fundamentally is for them to always protect the club and act in the club's best interests. But sometimes we don't know what our best interests really are. And if having a new badge that can become truly one of the sort of global sports logos, you think of people who wear New York Yankees caps and stuff just because it looks cool. And you have so many people you see in the street just wearing other sports team stuff. Back when they had the Oakland Raiders, when they were massive, you see people just walking around with their gear, their merchandise on. Maybe if Wrexham ever want to get to that stage of being just like a leisure wear brand, like PSG became in a weird way. I'm not saying we want to sell out maybe in the same way they have done. Maybe you need to modernise, maybe you need to change.
We're triggering a lot lot of people with what we're saying here. I can just tell there's people screaming listening to this.
And I'm very happy because that's what we want to do. I guess the point of this whole process is I've had to develop my own opinion and really think about it. And at first, I was fundamentally, no, don't change it whatsoever. But then when I think about it, it might be for the club's best interest. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If it's Wrexham Football Club and they're playing at the racecourse ground, and that is my Wrexham, the badge doesn't matter too much to me. I don't know. I'd love to get fans' opinions. What's yours?
Yes, definitely. Well, definitely, firstly, email in either just your opinions on it, or if you're a good designer, have a go at designing it. I'm just curious what the alternatives could be, because let's be honest, the badge wouldn't change without the fans unanimously approving the badge. Now, the fans got consulted on what did they want in the Kop. Did they want safe standing? It wasn't just a decision made, we're going to put safe standing in, we're not going to put safe standing in. Democracy won in that instance where, I can't remember, I believe the number was very high in terms of people wanting it. Great, that's going to be part of the Kop design. Brilliant, fans approve that. No, there's not going to be suddenly we're not going to wake up one day and there's a new circular badge that people are frothing at the mouth over. I would have to be honest and say that there are rebrands that I've seen. Now, I'm not a fan of those teams, so therefore, is it easy for me? Am I being a bit of a hypocrite? Because it's easy for me to say, yeah, that looks nice. But for example, Bristol City, I think their badge now is better than what it was before. It looks cleaner, it looks nicer. I like that. And their fans, from what I can gather, seem to have taken that on board. Brentford, another good example. I think their badge has improved with the way it's been done. But like I say, it might never happen. It probably won't ever happen. We're just having this debate because we want to. And I was thinking about it. And we get to decide what we talk about, which is the beauty of having your own podcast. But for me, Rich, I'd be open to seeing the design. I'd be open to a consultation. And if I eventually turn around and go, no, the badge we've got currently with the feathers, with Ichthyan, that is our badge. That is the best alternative. That is the best option of 5 designs or 3 designs. Great. But if you look at it, we're renovating the stadium. So that's good. That's positive. We've sold naming rights to the stadium. Okay, yes, we're still going to call it the Kairos and we're still going to call it the racecourse. That's not officially, legally what it's known as. Fine, money spinning. And and that might change again after Stoke if they don't get it. We're renovating the stadium. So things are changing all the time now. I understand it's a slippery slope. You change the badge, people worry about, are you going to change the colours of the kit? We get into Cardiff territory. I'm not suggesting anything of that level of sort of banality, but there is evidence. Aston Villa, I think, is a good example. Liverpool changed it. They got rid of everything but the liver bird. I'd have to be honest and say I would be very much open to seeing the alternatives, because why not? If you had I don't know, what could I do? If you had what did you have last week? The empty keg. If you had that empty Wrexham Lager keg and someone said there's different designs, we've got different Wrexham Lager design kegs that you could swap for yours. Surely you would look. Surely you would. You're not giving away. You're not giving away your keg. You're just going, there's a red one, there's a pink one, and I've got my blue one. I'll stick with what I've got, thanks.
Yeah, I think that's the key point, I suppose, isn't it? Is that there is a choice, and maybe fans would be consulted on it and have their say. Like I said, we're giving our opinions, and there's going to be thousands and thousands of other opinions out there. So we really do want to know. We might even put a post out on X on sort of Thursday to coincide with this podcast. Let us know, replying to that. We'll read some of those out next week. Again, email us in robryanred.com, robryanred, contact us button on the website. Yeah, it's a can of worms, but you'd almost say that if you're going to do a rebrand, I know we're very far along the line already, but hopefully there's many more years to come. You want to do it as early as possible because you're already sort of pushing the current logo out to the world, aren't you? And people already now have a recollection of what that logo means. Lots of people who don't follow football will know what that is. People who have a passing interest in football, lots of now North Americans as well, and other worldwide Reds will see that logo and think, oh, okay, that's the Wrexham logo. So if you're going to make a change, you need to make it quick, I'd say, on that front. Otherwise, you're, like you said, you're doing a new stand now. You need to have the right club iconography everywhere. So it's a really interesting one. It's a very delicate one. Like we said, it will be handled if it ever happens in the right way, I'm sure. But it's an interesting debate to have, and you can tell we lost at the weekend. Yeah. We've got nothing else to talk about.
No, there's got to be but these are the type of things that I just think about and I sit on, and we don't bring them up because we're usually chatting about games. There's got to be some graphic designers listening to this, because again, I'm just curious. If we were to do it from scratch, what would we want on it? What would be that icon? What would be that iconography that you would want on it as a fan? And everybody would come up with different answers, and that's the beauty of it.
Would you have a permanent sort of Gresford tribute on the badge? Yeah, would you have the Welsh dragon? What would you actually have there?
Exactly. Yeah. What would you want? And the beauty is that I know there are people far more creative than me that can create these incredible designs and visions. And we see it every year with mock-up kits, and the badges are completely, the crest is what you put out to the world and is that kind of icon, like you say. When you're looking at, US distribution centers, they now tie in with Wrexham Lager. A lot of wheels are turning. A lot of things are happening. Wrexham, I think, was there an interview this week where someone at Wrexham Lager said that Welcome to Wrexham had been seen by 162 million people, the documentary, I think that was the figure. It was an interview with Australian News, I think it was. And it's curious. I mean, I'm excited. I'm more excited to talk about this. I'm excited, but I'm more excited to read the replies and to people going mad at us probably for a quiet week. But genuinely, if you have the ability to design, you're interested in design, and you think you could just pull something together, I'm curious, because again, the ones fans of rival clubs I've spoke to or that have rebranded, you're talking like 6-7 month consultations and deliberations and questionnaires and all these words sound really boring, but ultimately you end up with what the majority want, and it's just it is interesting if you think, especially if you know what as well, if you're from across the pond, you're in North America where you've seen teams move, you've seen teams rebrand, you've seen things change. I'd be interested, given if you followed Wrexham in recent years, what you think about it. Whether you think Wrexham should stick with what we have now and what we've had, for so long, or would you change? So yeah, do get in touch and don't shout at us too much, because
the biggest vote of the week, Summer Billinger.
The biggest vote, the biggest, yeah, well, definitely in the States, it'd be the biggest vote of the week for sure.
Nathan Salt and Rich Fay.
Right, unlike Wrexham, it's a positive week for Mansfield because they are through in the FA Cup. They are also on a very good run of form, but we're not here just to kind of pile in on the Mansfield loving. I'm sure Craig and Mansfield Matters, the guys over there, can do enough of that. If you want to go check them out, listen to them. Craig, it has been, as I said, it has been very good for Mansfield. Myself and Rich feel a bit foolish because we did predict you pre-season, hands up, anyone who's watching, that you would finish about 18th, 19th. Has it surprised you how well you've done so far? I know it's early days, I know it's really early in the season, but have you been surprised how well you've taken to League One?
Yes and no. I think the whole prediction of where we finish, we'd absolutely take that, because I think 99% of Mansfield fans couldn't care less where we finish as long as it's outside of the bottom four, because this season's, for us, has always been about consolidation and just staying up and building for the future. That's, Nigel Clough, it's actually his anniversary of becoming Mansfield manager. He's been speaking today about the longevity of his time in charge and how it takes time to build. So we were sort of expecting this season to be one of building, with none of us realistically, 99.9% of us. There's one or two who pop up on the podcast and we've had a few debates over it of, talk about back-to-back promotions and all of that nonsense. Could not care less. It's all about staying up. So am I surprised? A little bit, because I expected us to struggle, especially sort of seeing how we played in the opening few games. We really looked susceptible to conceding on the counter-attack and really looked vulnerable at times. But actually, transfer deadline day did us a massive favour. Getting rid of Davies Keeler-Dunn for a shed load of cash is great, because, as much as we don't want to see a player like that depart and sort of, move on a hero of the club, what it's done is forced a hand to change formation. And since we've done that, we've been absolutely sublime. We've looked a lot tighter at the back. And actually, it comes in no surprise to see us going, because that's the Nigel Clough DNA, being hard to beat one game after the other. We're under no illusions that a bad run will at some point come, but to be, fourth in the table after X amount of games at this stage of the season in League One, it's great, but I don't think the real core of Mansfield fans really care about that at the moment, because the only thing they care about is being as far away from the bottom four as possible. So anyone who made those early pre-season predictions of finishing, 15th, 18th, whatever it may be, as long as it's outside the bottom four, we don't care.
It's quite funny though, isn't it, that sometimes that actually selling your best player or moving on from your best player can actually B for the benefit, which is like kind of this perverse way of looking at it, going, oh, Davis Coulthard, everyone would have said, yeah, he's Mansfield's best player. Did he win League Two Player of the Year in the end?
Did, yeah, he was up there, yeah.
You know, was up there, was in the final three. I'm pretty sure he pipped Elliot Lee to it. I think he won it.
I think he did,
was fabulous last year, and anyone who wasn't watching Mansfield week in week out would go, that's the guy, stop him. And it's for our lot who listen and maybe haven't seen much of Mansfield, just except the games we played against you. It is funny how you can get rid of your best player and actually then improve.
Yeah, it's weird because actually you're spot on, and he was our best player last season, and without him, undoubtedly we would still be in League Two because of the contribution he brought to the team. But his position and the role he played in that suited League Two football to a T. But does it suit League One football? Arguably not, with the way that Mansfield want to play. It left us vulnerable in areas, and it's just one of those things, isn't it, where you can't stand in anybody's way. We've got no qualms about him leaving. Of course, there's going to be a small percentage that are frustrated and won't like him when he comes back. But actually, most other people wish him well because we more than quadrupled the outlay that we got from him in terms of financial bringing him in and then him going out. He's done he did what he came in to do, which was score goals and get us promoted. We've shipped him on to another club. We wish him the best in his career. And it's like we say with every footballer, really. It's such a short career, isn't it, in terms of the amount of years that you're able to go out and earn a wage. You don't stand in anyone's way wanting to go for more money and to try and better themselves and be the best they can be. And actually, like you say, it has done us a favour. And it is a little bit perverse in a way, but actually, if he'd have stuck around, of course he'd have played every single week because he's got the talent to do it. But in order to play him every single week, we've got to play a certain way and a certain style. And at League One, I don't quite think that would pay off. So actually, it's done us a massive favour, and we've had to adapt accordingly. And so far, touch wood, we're adapting quite well, and long may that continue. But it's game by game. It's been and gone. We don't look beyond the next fixture. Nigel Clough has done something weird to us. Every other football fan always looks at like a chunk of games, don't they? But Nigel Clough has got us so grounded. It's so weird. Like we can't really remember who we played last weekend because it's been and gone. We can't alter it, and we ain't got a clue we played in 3 weeks because all we're looking at is the next game, which happens to be you guys.
You've all been brainwashed, which is very impressive for Nigel Clough, given what else he's doing. What I will say, though, in terms of the outlay, because one of the big talking points, especially among colleagues of mine, is, well, look at the spending in League One, and it's largely around Birmingham. Peterborough spent a fair wedge. We spent, 500,000 on players here, and spent $1 million on basically 2 players, Mo Farl and Ollie Rathbone. But when I looked at your business, it was a pretty frugal summer. I mean, there's one headline name there that was familiar in Welsh football. We'll get onto very shortly. But I mean, some of the names I'm looking at here: Keanu Bacchus who was at St Mirren, I believe, before that. Deji Oshilaja, probably pronouncing that wrong now.
No, just call him Dave. We do.
Dave. Okay.
Yeah, just say Dave. It's easier.
Dave. Okay. Yeah. Fraser Blake Tracy's been around the block. He was at Swindon. He'll be familiar to people. Lee Gregory was obviously a stalwart higher up. He was at Sheffield Wednesday before. Ben Quinn as well. Somebody mentioned a friend of mine who works in Scotland. He was at Celtic, wasn't he, before in the youth ranks, I think. So you made a lot of free transfers, and then you went and got Will Evans. You went and spent a bit of money, got him out of Newport. Was somebody that I think Wrexham fans would have been quite happy to have got Will Evans. I mean, the early impression from the outside looking in is fabulous pickup. Has he already looked like he's repaying the money?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't have been a massive amount either that we'd have shelled out for him because you mentioned it there, we're very shrewd in the transfer business that we do. And, what we've also done in that is get players out for money. So Will Swan's gone to Crawley for a fee. DKD goes to Barnsley for just shy of $750,000 or whatever it may be. And, we've moved players on and not, we've accumulated a lot of income in and not put a lot outgoing. But in terms of his impact, he's been absolutely fantastic, but he's one of those players who his footballing story is quite weird. I think only 4 years ago he wasn't playing full-time pro. He didn't come through academy setup. He came into the game quite late, and he's such a humble lad as well. He's really settled into the club really, really well. He's adapted and taken on the Mansfield culture and the Nigel Clough mantra, at the drop of a hat. And some of the goals that he scored has just reflected his ability. I mean, he made one slight mistake in his first interview. He revealed that he can play left wing back, and Nigel Clough's eyes would have lit up because he loves to play players out of position. But and he has utilised him there on a time or two as well, I have to say. But in terms of his contribution to the team, he's been absolutely fantastic. The goal that he scored at Wigan just typified the type of player he is. Just standing off, looking and watching play, nipping in and getting the ball and having a crack from the edge of the box with his weak foot and putting it in the top corner. But some of his other players, well, some of his other goals, the club put out the goal of the month video early today, and you watch some of them back, and it's just his movement is in awareness and that in terms of leading the line. And whether he plays up there with Gregory or Ben Waine, who's on loan from Plymouth Argyle, he just adapts to the role that he plays very, very well and just seems to it. And the fans have absolutely taken to him. And it's easy to see why so many clubs win for him. And I have to say, I think he's a loyal lad. I think, I don't think he'll be the type of player that will be actively looking for a move, this time next year. But there'll be clubs sniffing around for him, mark my words, come January, never mind next summer. So he's the next one that realistically we will have a fight to keep on our hands. And, whilst we've got him, we'll make the most of him.
What's the dynamic between? Well, we need a striker, so if he fancies it, we'll do some tapping up the weekend. But what's the dynamic between him and Lee Gregory in terms of, we see old school strike partnerships. So just before I came on, I was watching Richard Kone, who's thriving for Wycombe, and you see different types of strikers, and Gregory, I think, gets pinned as this, bit of a cumbersome target man, but actually he's still so effective at the level you see in the goals he's scoring. Is it a kind of, not little and large type, but what is their dynamic like up top? What are defences getting when they come up against Gregory and Evans is what I'm trying to get at.
It's just an understanding. Lee Gregory, for a start, is very astute. I think people that look at him as an out-and-out target man, well, that's your first mistake, because he can play very well to the ball, to feet. He reads the game superbly well. And we all thought when he sort of came in that it would be a case of just sort of lumping it up to him, trying to get crosses in the box to him. It's not that at all. He drops deep, he creates play, and he's very aware. And sometimes when he misses games, we do miss him, but we've got other players that slot him well. And in terms of the dynamic between Gregory and Evans, it's just more of an understanding. If one drops, the other will press, vice versa. If one's in the box, another will draw a defender out. They're just very aware spatially of each other. They give each other the room to progress into. If Lee Gregory drops deep, Will Evans will push on. If Will Evans has dropped deep, Gregory will try and push on a little bit higher and create the space. And they just bounce off each other. Well, it's not a case of lump it up to Gregory, he flicks it on, and Evans runs in behind. It's just a real understanding of the positions and their awareness on the pitch and bringing in their teammates as well. And I don't think you can particularly buy that or coach that. It just is one of those things which comes naturally, and it's all about the work that they do on the training ground. And to come in and to hit it off so well as they have done, it's great.
Lots of changes then. I was just having a quick look at the team that we beat 2-0. Thankfully, hopefully we see a repeat of that from our point of view back in March. I hadn't actually realised how much it had changed. I'm looking at Christy Pym in goal still there. Aidan Flint doesn't seem like he's necessarily a starter now, based on some of the lineups. I don't know if that's right. Would you say he's likely to start the weekend?
Yeah,
he's injured, right?
yes.
So he's in and out. We've seen, is it Aaron Lewis in the midfield? He's still there. But a lot of Jordan Bowery, we know, was a forward, but then has been transformed under Nigel Clough into this fullback. But, that starting attack, if I look at, we've just been talking about Evans and Gregory. It was Akins and Swan and Keeler done in behind. A totally different, attacking lineup. I'm then looking at Reed, and Ollie Clark was in there as well. Lewis Brunt, who obviously we've now got, but he's not been well recently and hasn't been able to get into the team. So looking at the team you've got now, I mean, who are the players that we maybe weren't familiar with that are now key pieces of the puzzle for you guys?
It's weird to sort of look at it in that way, because we've kept that. When you say it in that way, it does sound like we've made a lot of wholesale changes and, brought in a load of players in the summer. We haven't. It's just circumstance of those players that you've mentioned. Aidan Flint picked up an injury at Lincoln away earlier this season and has been out. He's been missed in dribs and drabs. Alfie Kilgore, you didn't see anything of him last season because he spent all of it injured. He's just come back from injury. So I couldn't actually predict what the lineup will be on Saturday. The only thing I can say for 99% certainty is that we won't play in the same formation and style that we did last year. We play with wing backs now. We've gone to a back three, back five, however you look at it, and it's changed. And in terms of that attacking lineup again, Lucas Akins, you won't have seen his name in the lineup recently because again he went on international duty in the previous international break, not the one that's just gone, the one before that. Picked up an injury, hasn't played since then, other than a few sub appearances. He's sort of him and Elliot Hewitt, who will be known well to Wrexham fans, having cropped him in the first minute, red card.
Yeah.
Of that, he's again still on his way back to full fitness, so he hasn't really got 90 in him. So they tend to shear right wing back at 45 apiece. And it's just one of those crazy ones. The only one really that we've moved on from that is Ollie Clark, who we sold to Swindon in the summer for personal reasons. His partner was pregnant. Ollie Clark's parents live Bristol way. He wanted support for his family. Off you go. It's simple as that. In terms of who to look out for, it's really difficult to say. I think obviously your main ones are obviously Will Evans and Lee Gregory. Lewis Reed is missed the last couple of games through injury, but he should be back in contention. The one for me is Dave Desjajalaja, who played in midfield for Burton last year, played higher up in midfield as well. He's slotted in superbly inside that back three for us so far this season, and I still think that Nigel Clough will stick with him there because he's a very solid choice, reads the game really well, can play out from the back and brings a calming presence to it. It's probably him and Fraser Blake Tracy and Stephen McLaughlin, whoever is on that left wing back role, because that's where a lot of our play seems to come from. And that's the worst question I hate on every podcast I go on. Who's your star man? Because we don't have one. We just have a squad of players who just do the job. It's so weird.
I'm very much. You're probably going to get promoted with us, and then I'll ask you again next season and the reverse game. But what I will say is, I think it's interesting though, because it is going to be a very similar matchup. So it's not, last time it's a 3v4. It is essentially, however you want to dissect it, 3-4-1-2, 3-5-2. It's a back three. It's wing backs. It is a. Can you win your battle? Can Ryan Barnett get the better of your left wing back? Can our left wing back get the better of your right wing back? And in the midfield is an area where we've performed really well. George Dobson in some games, but you did something we couldn't do, which was draw with Birmingham. And the runaway steam train. Although, like us, you did also lose to Stevenage, who seem to be the giant killers of any team that does well. But lastly, then, how are you feeling about the weekend? I mean, it doesn't feel that long ago to me, in my mind, that we played you at the back end of the League Two campaign. Obviously, we both ended up going up, which I think deservedly so in the end over the course of the campaign. I know we were both kind of a bit nip and tuck towards the end, but deservedly so. League One, we both started well. How are you feeling about the game? How are you feeling about Wrexham and kind of your feeling about the game going to the weekend?
I think the massive difference is expectation levels. You expect to get promoted again, and if you fail to get promoted again, that's a failure. For us, it's not. You've built this whole world around you, which is great to see. Watching the journey from when they first came in non-league, not having the crowds getting there and then getting up the divisions is great. But what you've brought with that is a massive weight of expectation around everybody's neck. So a draw to you is a bad result. A draw to us is a very good result, because our ambition is to stay in the division and to progress quietly as that sort of silent side that just chugs on like a sturdy train, just doing its job, going down the tracks. And I think for me, it's one of those really weird feelings that this season going into games in comparison to last year, I have no feelings whatsoever, because the more that last season went on, the expectation was there to get the job finally done and get over the line and get promoted. This year, it literally is just be hard to beat. And you talk about us drawing with Birmingham and losing to Stevenage, and that's a typical Mansfield thing. If you look at that week, we have the international break. We come back from it and we're really slugged in the first half, really slow to get going again. Concede a daft goal, and that's the goal which ends up winning the game. And then we go to Wigan on a Tuesday night where we're thinking this is one of the games where we're going to get turned over. This is where it's going to click into life. And then we go and win 2-1. And then we get Birmingham at home and we think, we're going to get turned over again. All the £1 million that they've spent and everything. We give away a sloppy goal a little bit. We gave them a little bit too much respect. And then the Nigel Clough factor clicks in, which is we do not come off this pitch without giving the opposition a game and letting them know that they've been in a battle. And that's what we did, and we got a good goal back, and we could have arguably gone on to win the game. So in terms of Saturday, I think it's going to your place and just doing exactly the same thing, setting ourselves up, being hard to beat, and coming away with, at least a point, and just continuing this nice little run we're on. But if we lose the game, we lose the game, and we move on to the next one, and we just build again. But I think at this stage of the season, the only thing that weighs in my mind is team selection, because for the first time in his 4-year tenure as Mansfield manager, Nigel Clough has got every player bar 2 available to him. Rhys Oates is still out injured. The other one that will probably miss the game will be George Williams, who's on compassionate leave at the moment. Obviously, George Baldock, who was at MK Dons with him, so he's having a bit of time off at the moment. But the quandary in that is Aidan Flint's back fit, Alfie Kilgore's back fit. Both of those two, in any sense the world, would be 2 starting names on your team sheet. But they've not played, and the back 3 have deputised for them, done superbly well. So do you drop them at a time where, against a team like Wrexham, who are obviously going to come and be a little bit physical and a little bit pacey, when they've not quite got the match pace, or do you stick with what you've got? So I'll have more feeling about it when I see the team sheet at 11:30 on Saturday, and what will be. But it'll be a good game, good atmosphere, and that's all we can ask for in this division.
Reminder, early kickoff, as Craig mentioned there, on the telly as well. If you're not able to make it, it should be a cracker. It's two very good teams. To some of the League One stalwarts, surprise packages, really. I mean, all the promoted teams. As I said, I've just been watching Stockport get royally turned over by Wycombe, but all the promoted teams having a good go at it. And as a reminder, if you want to learn more about Mansfield, even more in depth than our little short chat here, go check out Mansfield Matters. Craig and the guys over there will be, I'm sure. When do you release, Craig? What day? I should have asked you this before.
Yeah, it's all right. It varies every week, really, but this week we'll be live tomorrow. So it's either Wednesday or a Thursday. Just follow us at MTFC Matters X.
You can go find
whatever.
it. They've got back catalogues, Twitter. If you want to find them, you can find them. Craig's very knowledgeable, as is the team at Mansfield. So let's see. All the best, Craig, for the rest of the season, except for Saturday, obviously. And appreciate it.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
So, Nath, Mansfield next up this weekend. A reminder to you, it is the early kickoff, 12:30 at the Kairos, the game to be shown on Sky Sports. You'd expect us to go full strength again, but there is a cautionary tale heading into the Mansfield game. That is, James McLean, George Dobson and Andy Cannon are all on 4 yellow cards. If they are booked against Mansfield this weekend, they will be suspended for the trip to face Stockport County a week on Saturday. And as we've found out researching this, Nath, the cut-off point is actually 19 EFL games, half the season. So it seems, you'd almost say, inevitable that McLean, Dobson and Cannon will serve a 1-match suspension at some point. You're just hoping it's not for Stockport away.
You're also hoping it's not all at once, because I would have all 3 of those starting for me against Mansfield, which is a very tough game. And I have to say, Mansfield, the surprise of the season for me, because I had them right near the bottom. They're so well coached that they've really surprised me. But yeah, Dobson, McLean, and I think there was some confusion, wasn't there? Is McLean suspended? Because he's already got 6 yellows, one of which came against Harrogate, 1 in the EFL Cup against Sheffield United, and then 4 in the league. I mean, I'll be honest, I would expect all of those to start on Saturday. And I also don't think you can not pick them because fear of suspension. I mean, how many we've played 13 games already, have we? Or we've played 12 games, 13 games.
We've played 13 games already. So the cut-off point for their suspensions would be the Burton away game. If they were to get through Burton away without a yellow, then the threshold goes up again.
I honestly thought it was 15 games. So in my head, I was thinking, it's only a couple more. Maybe they get through Mansfield, get through Stockport, and then whoever else is after that one. Then is it Cambridge or Exeter or something like that?
Well, yeah. If you got through Mansfield and Stockport, that would be a 15. But the fact is, they've got another 4 after that. They've got Exeter, Lincoln, Barnsley, and Burton. So
as I'm saying, I was like, that'd be ideal. But no, it's 19 league games, so no doubt there's an inevitability. But losing all 3 at once would be a nightmare. Especially in midfield where George Evans is a long-term absentee. Rathbone, Lee. I mean, we haven't got an abundance of options in there, so we'll see. But who do you think? If there's one, Rich, that we think could get away with it, who's most likely to get away with it?
Well, can I just give you a stat, Nave?
Go ahead.
When we beat Mansfield 2-0 on Good Friday, James McLean was booked after 3 minutes.
Okay. I remember that challenge. Flew into the challenge in front of the away fans. Flew in.
He could have been sent off, I'm pretty sure.
He booked a private little chartered flight and flew into the man. Who I think the man went off.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, I think he went off.
We shouldn't laugh really, but I think he did. He did go off.
Serious faces.
Yeah,
we're not laughing.
Serious faces now. It's not. We don't condone that.
It's not a laughing matter, that.
So James McLean, Dobson, and Andy Cannon could all get booked. I could see all of them getting booked as well against Mansfield.
They are, but the thing is, Rich,
they're the three. They are the three. You would
Dobson,
predict.
an incredibly tenacious tackler. McLean is McLean, and Cannon absolutely loves what I call a take foul. He loves giving that foul away in transition, which is great. You got to do it sometimes, but they're nailed on yellows.
But
who's the most likely to get away with it? Who's the most likely to get to Burton and not get? I don't even know the answer to that. Dobson, maybe?
I think Cannon, because he wouldn't play as much, potentially. Do you know what I mean? He might not be playing every single game.
Maybe.
But the other quirk of that is, all three of them, that tenacity is key to them playing well anyway. So if you told Dobson or McLean, particularly, to avoid a booking this weekend, you would not be getting them at 100%, because they need that edge. They need to be playing in those fine margins.
I don't even know how they could do that. I don't even know how they could do that with the way they play the game on the edge that they play it.
Yeah,
you'd be compromising them to too much. You'd be compromising the game massively. I also like the fact that you've picked Cannon based on the fact that he wouldn't play and therefore couldn't get booked, rather than just like he might get away with it on the pitch. So yeah, if anyone's been asking 19 games.
Well, how about this, Nave? We've put £50 into that charity fundraiser. If any of those players don't get a yellow card in the next 5 games, 7 games, 6 games.
So 6 games, yeah.
Maybe for each one of those players, if any of those players don't get their 1 match suspension, we'll put an extra £20 in for each one.
Fine. All right.
Yeah, okay.
So Rich is very much hoping now that none of them, they all come through and that's another £60 in. But we'll be more than happy to do it if we get all of them for
and
6
if not,
games.
chase them for a refund.
Yeah, if not, get the players to pay.
Yeah, but obviously Mansfield this weekend, we've got Port Vale then in the
Bristol Street Motors.
Street Motors, a week on next Tuesday. That game is for top spot. Both teams already qualified from the group. Is that? I mean, how wild are you going for your Port Vale selection? Is that Josh Adam time?
If that, in all seriousness, now, if that isn't Josh Adam time, what are we doing? What are we doing with him? Because I think I looked before. I checked today because sometimes they play a Central League game on a Tuesday, reserve football, and I checked. They play once a month on a Tuesday. Like Wrexham have played 3 games. I think they're second bottom in the league or something. Josh Adam, right? Okay, well, I don't see him every day in training. Maybe he's far away from where he needs to be. Yes, he's come from an academy team. Yes, he was released, etc., all the rest of it. No, he's not Elliot Lee. I get that. I'm not proposing him to, but he can play in the Bristol Street Motors, surely.
Especially dead rubber.
Surely,
if you win that game, whoever wins that game and finishes top gets a home tie in the next round, guaranteed.
Fine,
but you might get drawn against but you might get drawn against an under-21s team, in which case it has to be a home tie anyway.
Yeah. Would I like to beat Port Vale? Of course I would. And we've got depth. You are going to play. Prediction for that team right now: Burton in goal, Revan, Ford, Aaron James,
O'Connell,
probably O'Connell, and then he'll probably play Boyle.
Boyle, who got PFA board as well now, isn't he?
Well done, yeah. James McLean lobbied for him to get it, and he got it. So Ben Davis, also Welsh international, on the board as well. So congratulations to Will Boyle. Boyle, O'Connell, Aaron James. Midfield's probably going to be Rathbone, Ashfield, and then probably one of the regulars, I would say, probably. I mean, who that is, Cannon or Lee or whoever.
James Jones?
I suppose, yeah, you could play James Jones or James McLean. He seems to want to play every game. And up front, Farland. It's so torn because I know the answer is to not play Paul Mullin, but I sort of want him to score goals by any means in any potential
Yeah.
game, Central League or First Team, because he's so frustrated at the minute that I just want him to get
Do you
a
know what I've
hat
just
trick.
realised, Nave?
What?
I'm almost wondering, what if McLean, Dobson, and Cannon all got booked on Saturday and missed Port Vale as their suspension? Do you think that's a loophole?
That's not a loophole that exists. They'd have to miss it in the next league game.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no.
If
There's no way.
so, I want them all booked in the first minute.
There's absolutely no way. That's the thing. So you're going to get them all booked in the first minute to then find out half time that they're missing for Stockport.
I think they might do that themselves. Yeah, well, no, I'd like to think Wrexham have done their due diligence if that was going to be the approach they were going to take.
Well, look,
maybe get a
what I would
tactical
say,
booking towards the end of the game.
What I would say
if
as well,
needed.
Rich, I've tweeted out this in previous seasons, but it's what's called the essential information for players. It's like a handbook that players get given at the start of the season, and it lays out completely that 5 yellow cards in 19 EFL League matches gets you a 1-match ban. 10 yellows in 37 EFL League games gets you 2 matches as a suspension. And then right up until the end of the season, if you get 15 yellows, which is very difficult to do, 15 yellow cards up until the last day of the regular season before the playoffs, you get a 3-match ban. So let's see. I mean, I'm shocked that it's 19 games and not 5. That's what's rocked me before we did the podcast.
I guess half the campaign, isn't it? So it does make sense.
Let's see. I
it's
hope
not
we
half
see
the
Ford.
campaign, is it? Because it's 23 teams.
Yeah, no. I hope we see Anthony Ford at Port Vale. I hope we see Josh Adam. I hope we see Bod Varson. And I tell you who I hope we see. I've already forgotten him. I hope we see Matty James.
I forgot to mention this as well. Mickey Thomas was talking to me about Mike James. He said that Johnny Evans is really eager to find out how he gets on at Wrexham. So they used to be really good friends when they were at United together. So
Right.
Johnny Evans is keeping tabs on Matty James. Let's
But
hope we
again,
get to see him in action.
surely Matty James got to play on Tuesday. We've seen Bod
Why
Varson.
not the weekend, mate? But we've just been saying how bad the midfield was against Harrogate.
Yeah,
This guy played 40 games in the Championship last season.
I know.
You'd
but
argue
just
he's
the
better
fact
qualified than any other midfielder we've got.
But the fact he didn't come on at Harrogate again, I just sort of, I'm left scratching my head. Like, I don't know. Anyway, that's probably enough because I know that Bake Off is fast on the horizon. We did get a message. Please do not ruin Bake Off results. We can't because it's about to happen. We normally record on a Wednesday. Rich is about to go into his zen-like state
Into
to
the
watch
zen,
whatever
in the
week.
zone.
I don't know what it is. Pastry week or
Dessert
something? I
week,
don't know.
mate. Dessert week.
So you're going to go off
Get
and
with
do
the
that.
times, fantasy football boy.
I'm fantasy football, but on that note, I've been disrespected beyond belief. Rich, sign us out before I give you the yellow card.
It's time for your Just Desserts, Nathan Salt. Thank you
Oh,
very
God.
much to all of you for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Shout out again to watch on YouTube if you haven't done already. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. That is the platform we're pushing at the moment. The charity link is in the description below. If you can donate, please do. If you can't, then sharing it would be a massive help to the other rich. Thank you very much to Red 10 People Development for the continued support of the podcast. Thank you as well to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic. Take care. Let us know what you think of the Wrexham badge proposal, and we'll see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Fay.